All right, folks. If you want to pick a coin for the next bull market, you want to look at one thing, and that thing is if they have an ETF or not. Because even though coins are dropping, the ones with ETFs can still get investments, which will help boost them up for the future. And we can see this from the new latest Solana ETF launch. Obviously, this isn't the first one, so it's not going to be nearly as big. But the Solana ETF from 21 shares, not from Bitwise, that one launched a few weeks ago, but from 21 shares, actually has launched amid this crash. But there is investor interest even throughout this entire crash. So the 21 share Solana exchange traded fund, TSOL, debuted with over 100 million in assets under management, signaling investor interest. 100 million is quite a lot on a debut, obviously. Exchange traded product 21 shares launched its Solana exchange traded fund ETF on Wednesday, marking the fifth SOL ETF offering in the US. Obviously, it's not the first spot ETF, but obviously, another one doesn't hurt. The number of ETFs I don't think actually matters that much. As long as you've got 2 or 3, I think you're fine. The people that are interested will find a way to those funds. The funds hold spot Solana and will take its holdings to secure blockchain network and recap rewards. According to an announcement from 21 Shares, senior Bloomberg ETF analyst Eric Balchunas, you'll probably also want to look for the ones with some kind of rewards or staking, because in a bear market, that passive income actually is a big deal. So 21 Shares is debuting its spot Solana today, which will have a fee of 21 basis points, BPS, not very much, and is opening with 100 million in assets under management. The Solana ETFs now have taken in 2 billion as a group, with inflows basically every day. Not bad considering extreme fear right now. So Solana obviously has leapt ahead in this. XRP has launched too, so has Litecoin and Hbar. Litecoin and Hbar just don't really have the volume. XRP hasn't been quite launched as long. Now the thing is, Rex Osprey and the XRP spot ETF, they've actually drawn a lot of interest as well. But Solana is behind Bitcoin and Ethereum. It is the third asset that people are wanting right now. TSOL's debut was accompanied by the launch of investment manager VanEck Sol ETF on Monday, which also features staking rewards. And I do think the staking rewards thing is going to be huge because people want that ROI. Market analysts and industry executives have said that 2026 could be a monumental year for altcoin ETFs, with potential introduction of over 100 new investment vehicles attracting fresh capital inflows, according to Matt Hogan, Chief Investment Officer at Bitwise. Bitwise was the first one to launch a spot ETF. So Solana gets caught in market rout despite highly anticipated ETF launches. Now, this is one thing that you actually need to make sure of. Just because you launch an ETF doesn't mean your coin is going to go up. Yes, it's going to have some positive inflows, but a lot of these ETF buys, they're going to kind of be OTC, maybe delayed or something. They're not going to be just the spot sales. That's not what's happening. So it won't really completely result in a reversal right away, but it will actually help it in the future. The price of SOL has decreased by approximately 14% over the last 7 days, which is pretty much in line with every other crypto right now. SOL is not increasing or decreasing harder or softer than any other crypto. So there's no real difference there. However, I think long-term, this is definitely a difference, because long-term, this does translate into buying pressure, or at least accumulation pressure, even in a bear market. And yes, there can be net outflows and that can hurt, but overall, you're not going to get less than $0. And seeing that there's $2 billion that have floated in Solana ETFs, that means at some point or other, those ETFs have to hold about 2 billion Solana, which obviously pushes the price up. So JP Morgan analysts added that the price performance of SOL and XRP ETFs could overshadow the price performance of Ether in the first 6 months after they debuted in the United States. I don't actually think so. I mean, there was only one Ether ETF for a long time, but just the amount of flows, I think Ethereum is way more than Bitcoin, than Solana or XRP, and the sheer amount of money is just on Ethereum's side, but. Ethereum ETF, that took almost a year for it to really have any effect. Bitcoin ETF took roughly 4 weeks. We dumped down 20% or so before we rose back up massively after a couple of weeks. But now the XRP and Solana ETF is probably going to take a while before they take an effect and start pumping the coin. Also, look forward to that BNB ETF coming out because they did file for one, and I don't think the SEC is going to reject it. And I look for some of those meme coin ETFs that are going to come out. So right now at this point, you don't really want to look for which ETFs get accepted. Take a note of them because those coins are probably in the clear. You want to take a note of which ETF coins get rejected because I think the vast majority of them are going to get accepted. And if your coin actually gets rejected, you might be in dire straits because that means you might be one of the few coins in the top 50 or so that don't have an ETF. Remember, the SEC has basically moved from we will accept this coin if all these conditions are met to we will only reject this coin if some of these conditions are met. As long as you don't meet the reject conditions, they will accept your ETF. So pretty much everyone and their mother's getting an ETF. We'll see if Trump coin and Melania coin get their ETF. If Trump coin and Melania coin get their ETF, that means your coin needs an ETF or it's going to fall behind big time. There's no question at all whatsoever about that statement, because if these crappy meme coins, these polyfi coins get an ETF, that means your coin should be able to get an ETF. And if your coin does not get an ETF, it's missing out on valuable investment inflows. I do think the retail investors, they're going to split into ETF buyers and then the perp margin traders. The perp margin traders, the leverage traders, they're not going to help any specific market. They're just there for pure gambling, basically. And they're going to move the market up and down, but they're not going to have a net positive effect on Bitcoin or any of your coins. However, the ETF buys for all these coins will have a net positive effect because ultimately you're accumulating money in these assets, and these companies that are holding the ETF have to buy these assets to back their ETF, as ETFs are all securities and they are tightly regulated. So in the next bull run, that's one of the first steps on deciding whether you should buy a coin or not, if that coin has an ETF and if they have 2 or more ETFs. And I do think, like most of the top 50, is going to have 2 or more ETFs. Solana already has 2, XRP has 1, but they're getting like 5 more. Cardano has a few, Hbar already has 1, they're probably getting more. Dogecoin's probably getting a couple, and even Trump and Melania coin could get one, which means if your coin doesn't have one, it is missing out. So keep your eyes peeled for these ETF approvals and make sure that coin you buy in the next bull run has an ETF. For newer coins, it might not apply as much. They might eventually get one, but that coin better get one within the first year or two or it's going to be left out. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.